Hey, what's happening? Welcome to Mates TV. So, Liverpool won, Manchester United lost, Newcastle lost, and Everton absolutely stuffed Brighton. And it leads to the big question, will Liverpool now get in the top four? Let's have a chat about it. Let's sit down. Let's look at the fixtures coming for all the sides. Let's look at the Premier League table and let's have a bit of a freestyle chat about it, really, because will they? I'm not certain, but is the vibe good around Liverpool right now? That I am certain of. Yes, I am very certain of that. It feels right here, right now, and has done for a couple of weeks for me, as though Liverpool have turned the corner. And the big question is going to be for the Reds in these coming weeks, is this them closer to the level that they've been over the last few years, or is this them having an uptick? So has their base level regressed to the early days of Jurgen Klopp, the first season, 2 seasons, thereabouts? Have we fallen to that, and then this is just a rise in form? Or is our base level right where it's been for the last 3 or 4 years, 5 years, I guess, and this has been a dip down, but we're now heading back to the level? That's the big question. Let's talk about it and let's see where we kind of come out with things. So I have a laptop at the ready, don't worry. So if you see me looking down, it's because I haven't memorized absolutely everything, as is the way. So I'm going to start because I thought the interesting question, so we did the Redmen Originals podcast on Monday, and then we did the Bias Football podcast on Redmen Plus, and Brighton had yet to play Everton. They had 3 games in hand on us, and that was a real concern. They still had 6 games of football to play to Liverpool's 3, and as much as everyone was looking up the table, looking at Uniteds, looking at Newcastle and Manchester United, the smart people amongst in the room were saying, well, hang on a second, are we overlooking Brighton? And because of that Everton result, those of you who did overlook Brighton were right to, I think. We shall see. So in terms of how the table looks at this point, and the race for top 4, which didn't seem like it was even possible to be a race a month ago, Newcastle are in 3rd in the table. They are on 65 points and have a plus 32 goal difference, which could prove to be very significant. In 4th place in the table, Manchester United on 63 points, 2 points behind them, with just a plus 8 goal difference, which could prove to be significant. And Liverpool right now in 5th, 62 points, plus 25 goal difference. However, they have played 1 game more than both Newcastle and Manchester United. And then below them, which kind of shocked me that they're still in there, Tottenham Hotspur on 57 points, same games played as Liverpool. And Brighton still now have 2 games in hand over the Reds, but are 7 points behind them. So Brighton are kind of looking at a situation where they need to win their games in hand. And I guess, look, they'll be thinking the same thing that we're thinking with Liverpool, is they're hoping that we drop points and they can get into that 5th or 6th place, I guess. I don't think that would be unrealistic expectations for Brighton, although based on how much Everton absolutely tore them apart, we'll have to see how they bounce back from that. They've obviously bounced back from the FA Cup disappointment pretty well. They bounced back from the disappointment of losing their manager midway through the season pretty well, and losing big name players in the summer, etc., etc. It's interesting. It's very interesting. Having a lot of football to play, I think, can be a real blessing. Look, if Liverpool had 5 games still to play, I would be feeling really confident about our chances. However, I've also seen Liverpool just win more matches than they don't over the last 5 years. So there is that kind of the muscle memory where it needs to click in. This is still predominantly a squad that knows how to put down 10, 15, 20 game unbeaten runs. And Brighton don't have that in their locker just yet. It's something that they might well develop. And they've obviously had a brilliant season so far. But my gut instinct on this is I think Liverpool are looking up, and they should be looking at Newcastle and Manchester United and less Brighton. For the moment, I feel like this may well come back to haunt me, but that's where I'm at with it at the moment. How do you feel about Brighton? Let me know in the comments section underneath, and we'll pick up on that. Or of course, tweet me at the Paul Machin if you want to, if you're seeing this off the YouTube platform. Right, let's look at the fixtures then for Manchester United and for Newcastle. Let's start with Man United. I've got a weird feeling about them. It feels like they're a side that's totally geared up towards their remaining mission of the season is stopping Manchester City from winning, in inverted commas, their treble, the treble. It's a real bee in their bonnet. I noticed this on the overlap the other week. Gary Neville and Adam McCullough really, really focused on that. That treble clearly means something, and there's a bitterness that comes with that, which is quite amusing to watch. Not that I want Man City to win the treble, by the way. I don't want them to win the European Cup. It would be disastrous for football if they did. But there is a comedy value to it. Let's fingers crossed Real Madrid do something. Who knows? But I don't really care if Man City win the FA Cup. They've won it a million times in the last few years as well. And actually just stealing something off Manchester United in that regard would be quite funny, particularly if United don't get in the top four. If they just end this season in like 5th or 6th with a League Cup, that is an improvement on what they've done in recent years. But given that they were talking about a title run like 5 weeks ago, that would start to destabilise Erik ten Hag's position, I think, which is hilarious. So they've got Wolves at home to come next. They've got Bournemouth away. They have got Chelsea at home, and they've got Fulham at home to end the season before, of course, they play Manchester City in the FA Cup final. Now, on paper, I wouldn't be looking at those and saying there's anything that should be causing Manchester United too many problems. I mean, 3 of your final 4 games being at home, that's certainly a benefit to them. Wolves are an odd one. I would not be staking my house on Wolves getting points at Old Trafford. I wouldn't. And Bournemouth, honestly, who knows with Bournemouth? And I suppose this same goes for Wolves and to some extent. Both teams are more than capable of getting something from that game. However, if you were going to put your entire life on the line on that, I wouldn't be backing Bournemouth or Wolves to, in a live or die kind of situation. However, the Chelsea one is interesting. Chelsea, I feel like they're going to have a hand in the end of the campaign. Not themselves, because their season's so catastrophically gone down the toilet that they're not going to pull themselves out of mid-table mire in the final games. But we'll see what Chelsea could potentially do in a second. Fulham last game as well. Again, who knows? Mitrovic will be back. Do they have one last hurrah? I'm kind of pinning a bit of that on. Can they drop another point somewhere, or drop another 2 points somewhere and grab a draw from Wolves, Bournemouth, or Fulham? And then maybe looking at Chelsea as one who could do them, which seems less ridiculous than it did a couple of days ago. Chelsea are a real wild card in all of this. Let's have a little look then at Newcastle's, and that will expand on that point. So they are playing Leeds away from home on Saturday in the 12:30 kickoff, which could prove to be an interesting little wrinkle in that one. They then are at home to Brighton. They're at home to Leicester City, and then they're away at Chelsea. Last game of the season. It's going to be the farewell Frank Lampard parade. Farewell again. This time, he gets to leave on his own terms. Maybe with a couple more wins under his belt, wouldn't that be great? There's something in that. And the fact that, again, on paper, Newcastle's looks more difficult than the Manchester United. Look, Leeds are rubbish. Leeds are absolutely rubbish, and I wouldn't be banking on Leeds getting anything. But if I wanted to have a situation throughout this entire season where Leeds were likely to get something, it's Sam Allardyce has had like a week it'll be the week and a half probably in charge at that point. It is the early kickoff on the Saturday, which can cause problems at times for good teams. It is Leeds scrapping for their lives out of the relegation zone as well. That just might be the perfect concoction to give Leeds something in that game. Something. Brighton, I mean, it's a double-edged sword. This mercifully, because of the Everton win, we can kind of put all of our hope egg baskets into into Newcastle getting the points in that one. Hopefully Brighton are resurgent enough to continue to want to press on for Europe. They want to get as high up the table as possible, and they are. I think Newcastle and Brighton are very, very sort of similar sides. They're very energetic, they're very physical, they've got good vibes going on around them as well. It being at St James's is a slight concern, but if I was De Zerbi, I'd be looking at what Arsenal did at St James's the other day, and hopefully, Newcastle are in this position, and this goes for Manchester United too, of course. where there's pressure on them now. Because I often talk about this, it's one thing to kind of get a lead up, but it's another thing to maintain it. And the best recent example I can think of this is Liverpool Villarreal. In the Champions League semi-final last season, I went there. Villarreal was sensational for the first half, and there's like, oh my God, are Liverpool going to fall apart and collapse and go out here? But the tone of the crowd changed at half time, because that, oh my God, we're doing it, isn't this exciting, you're all brilliant, we love everyone, is replaced by, oh Christ, we've got 45 minutes, can we hold on, can we get it, imagine if we get through this, how good's that going to be? And we've all been there. Whenever you start to think, oh, you know, whenever you're playing FIFA or Pro Evo, you're playing five-a-side, if you ever start to think about, like, we could win here, we're doing it, it's like Homer going over the gorge on the skateboard, it's like, I'm the king of the world. That is a distinct possibility in that kind of environment. Newcastle have literally not done this before, and there's also a thing where I think in the back of their minds, even though they've been so well ensconced in that race for Champions League for a while now, if they were to get into the Europa League, that would still be seen as a huge step forward. That would be a big win for Eddie Howe. There might be disappointment in not getting it over the line. And let's hope if they don't get it over the line, they go the way of Leicester in recent years when they failed to get in the top four. Fingers crossed. But maybe they'll be more accepting of a little bit of a slip. But anyway, they've got pressure on them. Manchester United have actually got even more pressure on them, because they've now deified their new manager. They've built him to be something that I'm not entirely convinced that he is. And they've got loads more fans, and they don't have the vibes that Newcastle have. Newcastle fans are just loving every single second of life at the moment. Manchester United fans are not. I mean, look, it only takes one defeat and out come the Glazers pitchforks again, which is fine, which is right. They do need to change ownership, absolutely. But it is hilarious how it's always like, it's good. Bro, boo, Glazers, boo. Instead of just, picking yourselves up, dusting yourselves off and focusing on what the team can do and how you can get behind it. So yeah, there's going to be intense pressure. And right now, it looks like I'd suggest Manchester United are in the weaker mental position from that. Will they crumble? It's a big ask. It is a big, big ask. Who would I want to crumble most, and who would you want to crumble most out of Newcastle and Manchester United? I think the answer's got to be Man United. Maybe there's a long-term good of the game thing where Newcastle could just do with having someone putting the brakes on them a little bit and having to go through another season, and now all of a sudden you've got to buy some more players, you've got to balance a bigger squad when you're buying more players for Europe, and they've obviously got the money to spend. And how do you reboot the vibes again, having felt like it was all going your way and then it doesn't at the end? I think both clubs are in an interesting position. Ultimately, my passionate feelings towards Manchester United mean that I really hope it's them, because Man United are a mega power. They're a mega power of football. If they get back into regular Champions League football, and then they get an ownership group that enables them to spend more, and let's be honest, not really spend more because they spend loads, but maybe puts people in place to help them be run better, I would be concerned about Man United. So everything we can do to kind of like have them trip, stumble and fall, I think will benefit all Liverpool fans' happiness, and probably the happiness of everyone in the world, if we're being blatantly, if we're being really honest about it. So yeah, it's a tricky run-in. It's not in Liverpool's hands by any stretch, but I don't know. Look, I was saying this at the start of April and people thought I was insane. I genuinely looked at Liverpool's fixtures and what were to come at that time. I just had a good vibe about it. I really did. And this was, Liverpool played Manchester City, Chelsea, then Arsenal, and that was going to be season defining. And there was an idea that we had to win all three, and look, to keep it in our hands, that we very much did, of course. When we lost to City and we drew to Chelsea, I think fixtures and other results went in our favour better than I think we could have expected, and really we were really looking for at the time. Liverpool are in a whirl where to achieve their goals, they're going to have to go on a 9-game win streak, an 11-game unbeaten run, which felt utterly impossible because, and a lot of the conversation we had was, there'd been no evidence that they could do that throughout the season. Hell, I did a video not long before that time talking about my crisis of faith in Liverpool. But what I've seen since then is that faith kind of restored by performance on the pitch, and feeling like Liverpool have kind of got the head around what they're doing. And I think, look, there's certainly work to be done in the transfer window, and I hope that even if they get into the top four, that doesn't kind of cloud that, because I think they're doing a good job in spite of the issues that they face. We've seen spending the money to rejuvenate the attack is kind of what's getting Liverpool through at the moment, and building your team around your best player in Trent Alexander-Arnold, big help that as well. But we're getting the best out of Trent, we're getting the best out of Salah, and we're obviously seeing the younger, more vibrant new players come in and starting to establish themselves and starting to perform as well. So there's more to come from Liverpool, certainly. I believe in this Liverpool team. I just do. That has no impact on what other teams will do, of course. But I believe Liverpool win their final games of the season, and I do genuinely believe that they'll get in top four. And again, because I believed it in April, which was lunacy at the time, but it felt like, I like stories in football. I like stats. I do. And I like skills. I like moments of brilliance. But I'm a stories guy, and having looked at the stories of Liverpool like myopically, intensively for 13 years, and then going back to years before that, the years that I was just a fan before I was a content producer, you start to recognise patterns, and you start to recognise things that happen, and things that when you look at the end of a season, you go, it was that moment, and that moment that contributed to where we ended up. And I've seen a few of them happening and starting to develop. It feels like Liverpool will get European football now, definitely, which seemed unlikely 2 months ago, or certainly 6 weeks or so ago. I just have I've just had this feeling in the pit of my stomach for a while that Liverpool are going to get top four. I believe. Do you believe? Let me know. It might still seem like madness, but what I would say is it seemed like utter crazy batshit insanity 2 months ago, and now people are starting to go, yeah. If you're going to bank on a team to do it, to pull it up from the depths, from the fiery depths of hell, and drag it out to this sort of heroic last-ditch moment, you'd bank on Liverpool to do it. And even in the situation that they're in, where they're relying on other people to falter, to lose their nerve, you'd back Liverpool to keep their nerve, certainly. And if you were trusting any of those teams to get the job done and get over the line, I'd be backing the team that in the last 5 years has won every major honour, with the manager that's won every major honour, that has the experience, the unity, and it's got the world-class players, proven quality world-class players in the side as well. That's who I'd be backing. So yeah, I back Liverpool for top four. Will they do it? I've got no idea. But isn't it nice to have sort of spirits and hopes renewed? It hasn't felt like that's been the case for weeks and weeks and weeks. Now all of a sudden we're looking down the battle of, for the sake of completeness, Liverpool's final 3 games. Leicester City away on Monday, Aston Villa at home, and then Southampton away on the last game of the season. Not easy. Leicester scrapping for their lives, Villa scrapping for European football. It's going to be it's good. That's going to be a really, really, I think, a brilliant game of football, and I'm feeling I cannot wait to go to that one. And then Southampton, fingers crossed, they're down and dead, and they just want to give their fans a nice little clap off. Don't think that'll be an easy game by any stretch, but yeah, I can see a pathway into the Champions League. And hell, again, if it's not, I'll take the Europa League. I genuinely will, because I want stories, I want journeys, I want reasons to go and sing songs and support my football team. And the Europa League can do that. I think about it. We went to the Europa League in Klopp's first season. We took another man's team to that final. And that's where Three Little Birds becomes part of our sort of song vocabulary. Every little thing's going to be all right. It became the mantra for the new Jurgen Klopp era, for the rebuild, the transition from Rodgers to Klopp. And the Europa League has the ability to do that again. And the finals in Dublin. And who doesn't want to go to a European final in Dublin? If you don't, you're mad. You're just not in the game for the right reasons. So yeah, that's it. Leave me your thoughts. Let me know. You can tweet me at the Paul Mach. If you're on YouTube, you can use the comment section underneath. If you are listening to this as a podcast, which you can now do, make sure you leave a 5-star review on Mach Podcasts. And if you're on YouTube, drop a like and subscribe to the channel as well. Anyway, yeah, I'm feeling good. I hope you are too. Up the top 4 chasing Reds. Oh, no, before I go, I'm handheld. I've done a video over on Redmen TV's YouTube channel reviewing Liverpool's new night kit for the 23-24 season. Go and check that out. I'll link that here. That'll be much appreciated.